Welcome to The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder. And today I have a special guest coming from Melbourne, Florida. He graduated with a business degree in computer engineering and a master's in computer science from the University of Alabama, Huntsville. He works as a software engineer and is also a real estate investor, which he mainly focuses on new residential development, single and multifamily units. He's currently works as a software developer for a defense contractor while building some amazing homes at the same time, which is very impressive. We're going to get into that today. Jay Opus, welcome to The Real Build. How you doing today, man?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your
Yeah, man.
platform.
I'm excited to have you. Obviously you're friends with Jesse, who I just had on, and I didn't even know that, which is awesome. Small world. But I
Yeah.
saw obviously what you're doing on social media, the content you're putting out that kind of drew me to you. You're putting out some really good content, and obviously you're building some amazing spec homes, which I want to talk to you about too, and as far as your investment properties that you're doing, along with doing a full-time job as well. So
Right.
it was very impressed with you, man. With that being said, though, let's talk about your background a little bit for the audience. Who is Jay Opus?
Well, I am originally from Nigeria, and like you said earlier, I graduated with a computer engineering degree with Huntsville, Alabama, University of Alabama in Huntsville, and I also did my master's in computer science. I've always wanted to get into real estate. It's always a passion of mine. After reading it sounds like a cliche, but after reading the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, two things came to my mind: stocks and real estate. Since 2012, I've always wanted to get into real estate. So in 2016, I visited a friend of mine in Dallas, and he kind of introduced me to new construction. And since then, I've been buying lots and building new construction. I just recently purchased a property where I'm building a multifamily on there. It's going to be a 12 unit. So it's been going really well, and it's fun for me.
Nice. And so how, obviously having a full-time job, you're very busy, and coming from your background with an engineering degree, that I have no doubt helps with building and construction and having you figure all that out. So how'd you get into construction, jump right in and just figure it all out? Because there is a lot of contractors out there that it's not that easy. They're still trying to figure out the processes, all that. How did you figure all that out?
Yeah, in real estate, there's no such thing as easy.
Yeah.
And when you when you multiply that with a full-time job, you just multiply the problems. So I was able to navigate that. As the first house that I did, which was an owner builder, that was the biggest, I would say the biggest accomplishment that I did, because at that point I didn't really know what I was doing.
Mhm.
After I purchased a lot, spent a lot of time. It took me about 6 to 7 months trying to figure out how I can pull this off while working a
Yeah.
full-time job. So I spent a lot of time gathering contractors. And when you think you know it all, you don't. So as soon as I broke ground on the first property, I started, understanding the business as well. That's why the first house took me a little bit longer than 8.5 months. So the way I was able to navigate that is by getting the contractors. I usually go around getting subcontractors from new houses that's being built. That's my launch time. So every launch time, I just drive around looking for new construction. And I was able to get a lot of subs and come back, do the math, see how long it's going to take me. After the first one was completed, which took me, in my opinion, took me a long time, I have the process now packed. And being an engineer, I think helped me with that process as well, because engineering is really just problem solving. So
Mhm.
in my mind, I'm just trying to figure out time management, life cycle, how I'm going to start, how I'm going to finish. So once I got all my subcontractors, I paid them a little bit more than what the general contractors would pay. And, that got them a little bit excited to work with me. And I just started using them for my other projects. So all I have to do is just call them and say, hey, I got a project coming up. and get them excited about it, send them the plans. I don't have to be there because I trust them. A lot of the cases you just call me usually for lunch. I just go and see what's going on. And that's how I've been able to navigate it. And it's been working pretty well for me.
Smart man, paying them a little
Oh,
bit more. That's because not a lot of builders getting into it would do that. They're obviously looking for the lowest cost subs. They're looking for how can I make more profit? How can I, find the lowest and beat up the subs too? And a lot of subcontractors don't like that because they are, like with us, we've been some of our subcontractors we've worked with for over 10 years, maybe 15 years, because and they're loyal to us because we do pay them well. And they tell us too, a lot of new contractors come in and try and beat them up on price and they say get
right,
lost basically.
right.
So your strategy was completely different as a new contractor coming in to the game and being like, okay, I'll pay you guys a little bit more. That's smart, really
Right,
smart.
right. It did help me a little bit because, at that point I was actually depending on their knowledge, right? I'm leveraging off of them
Yeah.
because, like I said, when you think you know it all, you truly don't. So since I was new in the game, hey, let me pay you a little bit more. And another advantage that I have is I don't have any overheads, right?
Hmm.
I don't have employees to pay. I don't have any bills
Yeah.
to pay. I don't have any maintenance. So I think that gave me a little bit of edge over a lot of the general contractors. I mean, for my framing, I was paying $4 a square foot, while some contractors were paying, $3.10. So when I told the framer, I said, "Hey, I'm going to give you $4 a square foot," he got really excited to work with me. So I think that advantage of not having a lot of overhead helped me win those subcontractors to work with me.
Yeah, it's a big advantage too, and also offering more money kind of brings that loyalty to you because I mean
Correct.
they're like, all right, this guy means business. He's willing to give us a little bit extra cash compared to who else we're working with too. I'm sure when you scouted them out too, you went to some of the bigger builders in the area and saw who they were using
Right,
as
right,
well.
right.
Which
Yeah.
if they're a top builder, they're probably using really good subcontractors, and that's a very smart move on your part. I've never heard that before because a lot of people, I give you a lot of credit. A lot of people getting into the game, they want to beat up subs. They want to get the lowest cost as possible just so they can turn the most profit. But that always doesn't work the best doing that because when you get the lower subs, the lowest price subs, the quality starts to go down as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, subconsciously they're like, you're not paying me enough,
Hmm.
for what I'm working on. But when you pay them enough, they get excited to work with you. Subconsciously they just want to do the work right. And I also told them that, hey, I'm going into this at some point. This is my first gig. This is my first job. This is my primary residence. That's actually the house that I'm taking this video in. That was my first one in
Nice.
2018. So I got them excited, and since then I've done about 6 houses. So things just kind of worked out for me that way.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about, the different construction types you're doing now, though, like the different builds. I see you're doing residential stuff on your page on your Instagram.
Right.
You said you're just about to start a multifamily unit. Let's talk about this a little bit. How were those processes? How did it go for the first, you said 6 houses that you built, and now you're getting into multifamily, which is a whole new avenue. How's that
Right.
going?
Yeah. So far it's a different ball game itself. I went to the city the other day to discuss um, starting the project, and there's more into it.
Hmm.
Site planning. You have to work with just the city planners and not just the permitting department. It's a lot bigger lot, so there's a lot more that goes into it. So at the moment, I'm working with different contractors. A lot of the subs that I've used previously are smaller subs. They don't do work that large. So that's kind of like a new realm for me that I'm working on right now. So it's going pretty well. Currently, I'm doing site clearing, and I'm working with a civil engineer to help me with the site planning as well. So that's kind of like a new realm, and I'm still, gradually working on that one.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like with anything in building, though, it's like the first house you built. I mean, that was your kind of, you learned from it, you learned from your mistakes, you learned what not to do and what to do, the best strategies. And that's going to be the same for multifamily. I mean, we haven't built any multifamily yet. Maybe in the future we will. Obviously, over time, the houses we've built have gotten bigger and more
right,
challenging. I mean, some of the stuff we're doing, it's just the amount of Pinterest pictures I see, to try and come to life and
right,
bring them to life, or people driving by and liking certain exteriors. That's the fun of the business, though,
right, right,
and
right,
make watching these things come to life. I always talk about too. I mean, I went from building Legos as a kid to building actual real dream
uh,
houses for people too, and it's a challenge.
mhm.
Customers can be a challenge, but in the end, once you have a final product, you get through the hurdles and everything, and you figure out, even from little situations to big situations. I mean,
Correct,
it's
correct.
worth it, man.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than when you're in the house working on the house and people are just actually literally pulling over to ask you, who's the builder? Is this house for sale? Like, okay, yeah, I'm doing something right. So I get that every time when I'm actually in the house. And some of my subs call me and say, hey, there's a lady that just dropped by. She wants to buy the house. And I'm like, yeah, it's not for sale. So, it gives me a very good feeling that, the work that I'm doing looks good, so.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's talk. I mean, engineering. Obviously, you have a full time job, and you're
Mhm.
working with Lockheed Martin. I know you can't really get too much into detail on what exactly you do. How do those mesh, though? Engineering and building. You brushed on this a little bit. Let's go deeper into this.
Okay.
How's your background benefiting you as a builder, building now multifamily residents?
Right. So engineering really is just problem solving, right? The type of I'm a software developer. So what we do is figure out problems, understanding what the problem is, and trying to create a solution for the problem. And that channel into construction or building is really the same thing. So for me, the first house was my biggest challenge, is going to a completely new realm and trying to understand, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, which is building a house for myself. How do I start? Where's the processes? Where do I get all the information? So that, life cycle of developing a software from absolutely nothing to a product, I use that same process in building, where I went from an empty piece of lot and I started working with different architect. Another thing that I have in mind is marketable houses. I don't want to build something that's too specific for me, something that if I want to sell, it can sell easily. So
Mhm.
that engineering process of knowing how to start a process from absolutely nothing to something, I kind of channeled that into building, and that helped me understand processes and the things that I need to do, time management, what comes before what. Obviously, the framing comes before roofing, but within the framing, there's so many nuances that goes into it. So
Mhm.
understanding those little things was was the biggest thing for me, and using my engineering knowledge of problem solving kind of helped me, solve that hurdle.
So on the design side of things too, how are you figuring out the best design strategies for your spec homes to sell them the fastest? Yeah, are you looking at trends? Are you looking at what other builders are doing? I know you said you go out kind of at lunch. Are you looking at kind of competition, what they're doing as far as spec homes and so on? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I do trends as well. And I have two minimum criteria for my houses, and that sells every time: is open floor plans
Hmm.
and high ceilings.
Hmm.
Um, when you have those two things, it gives them a wow factor when they open that front door and go into the house. Once they naturally see everything and see the high ceiling, gives them a very warm, feeling inside, and everything you hear is, wow, this is nice. Give them that. They don't understand that those small features like that help
Hmm.
them, like the property. So those are the two things, the basic minimum that I have in my houses. Then I have some of the, like the tile flooring in the bathrooms, jet tubs, and I also check Pinterest as well. I check, top. 10 criterias in the house that most people are looking for. I subscribe to Builders Magazine that tells the trend. Some of those things that are the things that help my house is more marketable when I'm ready to sell.
Yeah, and it's that knowledge when you go in, knowing what the trends are too on the custom home side of things too. I get asked all the time my opinion. I was at a job site yesterday, and the actual homeowner's renting a house right next door, and she came out and had a conversation with me about what I think about this. What should they do on elevation? I saw a picture of this, and when they ask, what I'm getting at with that is when they start asking your input, that's that trust level that they
Right.
know you know what's going to sell too. I obviously have a broker's license as well. So selling real estate, I know what trends are going to be able to sell later on. Where when we build that house, when the house is finally done, we CO it, they're able to sell that house for even more profit than they paid. And that's the way
Right.
that's kind of what I look at during that build process. How much money can they make later on? Not that they want to sell it, but you
Right.
never know. You got to constantly think resale as a builder on the custom home. And some people want what they want. They want to go off the wall. They want to do some crazy stuff. We're doing one
Right.
now. I mean, we're doing one now that kind of looks like a Catholic church, heavy stone outside, looks like it should be out in the mountains, but
Yeah.
it's what they wanted, and we got to give them kind of their vision
Yeah.
sometimes too. So
Yeah, I had a customer that said the exact same scenario you just explained, and I'm like, "Are you sure you want this? Is this gonna be your like final house? Because when you're ready to sell
yeah,
in 2, 3 years, you're gonna have a lot of problems selling this house." And he was like, "Yeah, this is what I want." This is like, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's the customer, they're always right, right?
yeah, yeah,
But
you
I
got
try to explain to them that, this may not be very marketable if this is the way you want to go about it. And, they seem very comfortable with what they want. So I had to give it to them.
yeah, and they appreciate that honesty too.
Right.
I've had to step in and kind of say, that's not what, we don't want. Even like here in Florida, everybody wants a spa on their pool or a hot tub on their pool, and that's a big resale item down here. And
Right.
I've had people say, well, we're never going to use it, can we take it out? I go, you got to think resale, that little thing can blow a sale,
That's true.
just that,
That's true.
just a little item like that. Or not having a bathroom in every bedroom, or, it's, depending on the size of the house, obviously, if it's a larger home, you gotta, each house has to have their own bath, each bedroom has to have their own bath.
Right.
And, just having that open floor plan, nobody's really doing the chopped up floor plan anymore where it's living and family separate. It's just a big
Right. Right.
room opened up. High
Right.
ceilings, like you said, are very important. Detail, it matters too. So there's a lot of different things that go into these things, that to look at, and we're the guide. I mean, that's why they choose us to go with, to build
Correct.
that
Correct.
house, because we
Yeah.
have to be their guide.
Yeah. And a lot of what I do is, since a lot of what I do is spec, and it's like I already have the plans, I already
Mhm.
have it ready. It's just more of like I put all of those things in mind while I'm building because
Yeah.
I'm going to sell it for sure. I'm not going to keep them, So I put a lot of those things. So when it costs, it's easy for me to tell. 9 out of 10 times, a house sells before I get my CO. It's
Yeah.
just having all of those things in mind while building the house makes it a lot more marketable than it would be with just a regular house.
Well, if you can sell a house pre-market, like you're saying, I mean, that's huge too. But
Yeah.
then you start kind of getting more into the custom approach, because to
Right.
get that early client, they're gonna
change
want
change orders. I think I like this tile better than that tile, but it's already down there, So
to.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
a good
so
point.
that kind of goes into my next thing. Obviously, you are doing more spec homes and investment homes versus custom homes. I
Yeah,
mean, what do you like? But obviously, you like spec better. Um,
yeah. It gives me full autonomy
yeah,
of what I envision that the market wants,
okay,
right? So it's more of like I'm not an interior designer. I don't tend to go through all of it by myself. What I think, I usually sub out that, hey, what should I do with this? What should I do with that? And also check the trend as well. That's huge because you want something that's easily marketable. When it comes to custom, I mean, it's easier, but customers sometimes are a little bit harder to work with, in terms of like change orders. I've had a customer that I worked with said he wants something, and 3 days later changed that one thing that he wants to something else,
Mm.
and like, I mean, you're paying for it, but it's a lot of headache going through that process again, so spec home 100% for me. At some point I just decided I think I just want to do specs and not work with customers, because in reality, it's not my full-time job. It's just something. A lot of these customers actually come by word of mouth, because I'm not marketing myself as a builder right yet. And it's just more the houses that I've done. People visit that house and say, "Who was the builder?" And that's how they connect with me. So it's, the process of spec is just 100. It's easier. It's less headache. There's no much. People. I am my own customer,
Yeah.
and I am my best customer. So it's spec home for me for sure.
Well, custom, you're in a long-term relationship with the client too.
Right,
And I mean, that's all we're doing right now is custom, because that's all we
right,
have really time to do. I'd love to do some specs, but then once we start doing a spec home, somebody sees it and they're like, why is that home moving and ours isn't at this state? You start getting
right,
in that where we build, it's a small area. So
right,
um custom has its advantages. Spec obviously has its advantages. You have a lot more freedom doing spec homes too. There's more risk, obviously,
correct.
versus custom, where you're getting paid guaranteed. um but I like both. I agree with you more though on the spec home side of things. A lot more freedom. You can kind of be the decision maker, and what elements are going to work and what's not going to work, versus
Right, right.
custom. You're working obviously under somebody in a long relationship, especially in a big home, and homes
Yeah.
they're not quick to build down here. So it's a very long-term marriage with the client, but it's good. I mean, you just have to, what I've learned over the years too, is you kind of have to be able to, we're in a situation now with the market the way it is. We're able to pick and
Right, right.
choose kind of our clients and who we want to work with. And after doing this so long, you kind of get a feeling, or who's good to work with and who's not. You can kind of tell right off the bat.
Right, right.
So which helps, because if they're going to
Y-
be a pain,
Yeah, right.
sometimes one house can turn into almost two houses, the amount of work you have to do with that client.
Correct, correct.
So,
Yeah,
so, let's talk obviously in the spec home side of things too, though. Uh, we brushed on this. A lot of builders skimp on the quality. They try and cut quality to say, make more money
right.
on the investment. Ourselves as a builder, we hold ourselves to the highest standards of quality all the time. That's what I sell our company on. We want everything perfect. We're just nuts. We're OCD. Our customers see it. uh, how are you ensuring every one of your homes on the spec side is top notch quality?
Yeah, what I do is I have three models that I build for my specs, and is the exact same thing over and over again. So after the first one, you see your mistakes, you check those things and you correct them. So at the sixth and the seventh time that you build that house, it's almost damn near perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it's so good that you know it at the back of your
Mm-hmm.
mind, and you can instantly see when something is wrong. So it's more of experience, and it's more of being doing it multiple times. So I'll use the same subs, and a lot of my subs are licensed and insured, and they actually warranty the job for 3 years for me. That's one of the things that I talk with
Nice.
them. So all over, like my plumbing, my HVAC, my roofing, everything is all warranted. So they take the responsibility if it's not done correctly.
Yeah.
And I also insure the customer as well that buying this house. Though you're buying a spec home, these are the things that come with it to give them that satisfaction
Yeah.
that, okay, I'm covered. And subcontractors, knowing that they're liable if anything goes wrong, would want to do the job correctly. Plus, I pay them well.
Yeah.
So those are the things that, repetition, for the models, the insurance that I get from the subcontractors, and the peace of mind that I give the client just makes everything go smoother for me. It just gives a quality job.
Do you see yourself going eventually stopping your current full-time job and
Yeah.
then going full-time into building?
That yeah, that's a no-brainer. You didn't even have to finish the question. That's a no-brainer. I'm like almost 80%, building and 20% software development. I'm actually using some of my software skills into the building because I'm a software developer and I started with the owner builder. So I want to help people who are trying to go into the owner builder realm, even if they don't want to be a builder and they want to do an owner builder. So I'm actually writing a software right now that will help them with processes.
Oh, wow.
So since the first time I didn't really know what I was doing, I didn't really know what the steps are. If you're building houses in Central Florida, maybe North or South Florida, it's really kind of the same thing. So I'm trying to write a process that would help them or create a website or software that will help them with the process. So I'm very, very focused on the building thing. And I think at some point in the near future, I'll, focus it on 100%.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to, obviously have your full-time job and then do this at the same time, I'm
Right.
sure, because once
Oh yeah.
the bigger you get and then the bigger projects you get too, you're going to have to be more hands-on because those subs are going to, I mean, no matter how good they are, they're going to have questions,
Correct.
and a
Correct.
lot of
I've had situations where I had to leave work and say, okay, all right, I'm going to the site to.
and it's only going to get worse, man. It's
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
there's going to be a situation. Then eventually, as you grow too, you're going to have that superintendent that's going to take a little off your plate and so
Right.
on, and start getting your employees and all that.
Yeah.
But um,
And mentally it's draining as well.
yeah,
When you focus, multiple builds at the same time, which right now I have three going on, and also doing full time. It's even if I can actually take care of the job, but something has to give. I have a
yeah,
family, I have the job, so something has to give. So at some point, it's gonna be like, okay, slow your roll, tiger.
yeah.
gotta, you gotta focus on one thing at the same time. When you're putting your legs in different places, everything is suffering. You're not really focusing on one thing. So at some point, I think I'm gonna go into building full time and let go of the software position.
I mean, I agree with you. Having a real estate background too, there was a point where I was going to start my own real estate company and I started working on that, but that started pulling me away from the building end too. Yeah, I have my brother who I work with obviously together, but and that helps with a little bit of time and stuff off my plate, but when you start losing focus of what truly matters, which
Right.
is the building and the building the and I'm a big advocate. This has always popped in my head is play the cards you've been dealt, and
Mhm.
obviously on the building end, I grew up in it, family business and so on. And whenever I start pulling away from that and trying to get into other things and other businesses, I always tell myself that and pull myself back
Right.
to,
Right.
to reality and say, what are you doing? This is your main focus. This is going to be what you're about, your brand, your everything. Pull back into this. That's why people are building with you, because they like working with you. They like the
Correct.
brand.
Correct.
So sometimes you do have to pump the brakes. I mean, I love doing real estate. I do it on the side. They kind of go hand in hand, but I was going to start a rental company at one time. And then I was like,
Oh
all right,
wow.
yeah.
That's a different beast on its own.
Oh yeah. So I started
Sure.
getting into that and doing the paperwork and all that. And then I realized I'm like, you're gonna not sleep. You're
Yeah.
gonna run yourself into the ground. So that I put a halt on that, and its focus now is growing the build company, and eventually if some of those other things come down the road
Right.
when the company is able to run itself a little bit more,
Yeah.
they will.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about going into rental. The 12 unit apartment that I'm building is actually mine. And I'm still building, starting the process. So when I get to the final end, when I get the CEO of the building, then I'll decide, do I want to keep this or do I want to sell it? That I'll solve that problem when I get there. But it's, going into rentals kind of like what you just said, it's, different based on its
Yeah.
own. So yeah.
there's a lot of work in it, man. And I started getting into it, and I was going to do the vacation rental side of things too, because we have so many clients we build for that rent their houses part-time and do the
Okay.
weekly rentals. And they're like, do you know anybody? They would always ask me. That's how I started a home watch business, because they would be like, do you know anybody that does home watch, that watches houses while we're gone? Because it's a lot of part-time people here.
Right.
And then they were asking about rentals. Hey, we're going to rent. Do you know any good rental companies? So that right there, cha-ching, I
Yeah,
was like, all right.
triggered.
Yeah, I was like, all right, maybe I'll start my own thing. I started researching the competition, what they're doing, what they're charging, and then who would I'd have to hire. And I just would, I don't think I'd ever be home if I did do that,
Right,
because
right.
the amount of problems you see within rental properties, you just with, I can't get a sliding glass door open, or I can't,
Yeah,
this won't lock, or help me with
yeah.
this.
Well,
It's just the little
this
nit.
light will turn on and
Yeah, yeah,
just turn me on.
bulbs out and you replace it. It's just a little nitpicky stuff to where I'm like,
Right,
all right, you're going to completely lose focus on what you do best, and that's custom home building and
correct.
design. And so I was like, nah, let's pump the brakes on this a little bit here.
Right.
So
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
yeah. Let's so how I found you, obviously, we kind of found each other on social media, and I started watching some of your content. And there's not a lot of people in our industry doing construction content, and I watched some of your stuff, and you're doing a really good job at it.
Thank you. Thank
um
you.
when did you decide to dive more into social media? Let's talk about the importance of it as a builder on the building end,
Mhm.
um and some of the strategies that you're doing throughout your social media, because I see your stuff's getting a lot of views too.
Right.
So what are some of your strategies? Why is it so important as a builder to do it?
Well, so I always see social media as a tool, right? As a power tool.
Yeah,
And with any power tool, you can build a mansion with it, and you can also cut your fingers with it, right?
yeah,
So you have to use it properly. And where I'm from, I'm Nigerian. We always have this saying that your success is measured by the amount of people you make successful, right? So you being successful by yourself doesn't really measure up, but how many people do you make successful? So when I completed my first owner build, I was very, very excited. I wasn't really big on posting. If you check a lot of my content, I recently started posting more.
yeah.
And the first project I did, I made 180,000, and it took me about 8.5 months. And I was really bummed by it. I was really surprised by it. So I was like, okay, how many people have the drive that I have, would want to do something like this, but don't have the know-how, right?
Mhm.
So that's where I started making videos, right? It's like I tell everyone, it's not a walk in the park. It's not easy. You have to put in the work, but if you put in the right amount of effort, you'll be able to do it. So
Mhm.
that's why I started posting a lot, and I've been getting a lot of interesting content, just like the conversation we're having. It's based on what I posted, and you saw it and liked
Mhm.
it. So I wanted to kind of inspire people to see there is a thing. I know it takes business from both of us, but that's not really the area I'm focusing. I'm just saying, if you have the ability to do it and you want to do it, here is something that may be able to help you do it. So that's why I post a little bit more. I'm not monetizing it. I'm not trying to get anything from it. It's just more like I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the building, and if people who want to see it and take advantage of it, here is a content that might help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And the more, I mean, it's working, because the more you tell your story, that's what people want to see. And you're explaining things, telling them what you're going through and so on too. People want to watch that. They're drawn to that too. You don't have to have professional videos and all this stuff
Right.
with professional cameramen and pay a fortune, which a lot of people think they do. I mean, there's builders out there that do it. I follow some builders, and they got a lot of followers, and all their stuff's
Mhm.
professionally shot. They got all this fancy video work and all this. Then you go on my profile, and it's a cell. I use a cell phone, and I talk about each one of our houses and walk around with my dog and have a good time,
Right.
and make fun out of it. It's just, and people like that too. I've gotten a lot of clients off video, just showing what we do, how our processes are, and I'm trying to come up
Mhm.
with new content, new strategies that we can talk about and so on. And it's just it's fun. And I preach to people that no matter what you're doing, you should be doing some kind of content, but especially in the building world, there's just not a lot of people doing it,
Yeah.
especially in my area. I'm sure your area the same. There's just not a lot of builders willing to get behind a camera too.
Right.
And I do a lot of content with podcasts and stuff. I'm actually my coach that I have. He
Mhm.
told me I should get some of my competition on the podcast too.
Oh, wow.
I'm
That's
like, that's kind of, how am I going to do that? He goes, ask them. And I was like,
yeah.
well, you kind of think they're going to just shoot you down because they're
Yeah.
competition, but I got to try it. That'll be one of the upcoming podcasts, hopefully.
No, that'll be
But
interesting.
yeah, but I enjoy doing this, man. Like I would have never met you. We wouldn't be having this conversation if I
Right.
didn't do
Right.
this. I wouldn't have, through content on social media, we would have not have met. And it's making those connections. Like you're in
Yes.
Melbourne, maybe you have somebody coming to Marco or Naples, or if I have
Right.
somebody going out there, we have a link now to each other too, where we can do business together. So,
Right. Right.
that's what it's all about too.
Yeah. I've had interesting contact from India and UK saying, hey, they like to invest in real estate in the US. And I gave them a couple of tips. I'm not in the position where I start doing crowdfunding and getting money from different people to invest.
Mhm.
I just gave them a couple of tips. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. It may work for you, may not. But it's a power tool. Social media is a power tool,
Yeah.
and if you use it correctly, there's no limit to it. So I'm trying to expose myself, and a couple of it comes with personality as well. And I have actually the guy who introduced me into building in Texas. He's not a fan of it. He's like, nah, I just want to do my thing low key and just enjoy the process. Part of using social media comes with the personality. Are you able to have this type of conversation with people? Are you willing to give out information? Are you willing to give out value to people?
Hmm.
That's the biggest thing with social media. If once you do that and people see your content is valuable to them, it's the sky's the limit.
What you just said there too is being able to give out information. And I think a lot of contractors struggle with that. They think their secret way or their secret sauce is the best way. They don't want to give that out. But
Right.
and I struggled with that at first because that's how my dad taught me. My dad didn't want to give any secrets or tell anybody anything. He was hesitant to tell realtor stuff or any kind of people what he does and how he does it.
Mhm.
But there's nobody that can do what you do like yourself.
That's true.
There's one of me. I mean, people can take my advice on how I operate our business and how we're a successful company. They can hear all that through this platform, but are they going to exactly be like me and be able to sell like me and talk like me and be personable to certain people? Maybe, I
Right.
don't know, but not, no, you're not going to identically clone me or be the
Right.
exact person as me. You have to be yourself. And that's the thing too with social media is people want to see who you are. They're buying from you. And that's why it's so important too, is people are seeing who Bill Ryman is, they're seeing who Jay is, they're seeing who we are, and if they like us, they're going to buy from us. If they don't
Right.
like us, they're not.
Right. That's true. That is true, and it does goes. But always have this saying is, regardless of the content you put out, you can show someone out how to drive. You can give them tips on driving. They can actually sit on the passenger seat while you're telling them how to drive, but they will never know how to drive until they sit on the
Mhm.
driver's seat and drive themselves. So part of the content you're putting out is them willing to take action on it. That's the only time it's going to be fruitful. So a lot of what we're giving out is, if they have it in them, it's going to come out, and you are going to be I guess the origin of their success. And for me, I found that very valuable, knowing that somebody is doing well and they got that information from me. I think it's valuable to me personally, and I think it would be valuable for a lot of people if they take advantage of the information that you're putting out or that I'm putting out.
Well, the stuff you're doing too, you said it basically you're developing a software for owner builders,
Right.
and the one thing is now that you're establishing a company in the building world, we don't really like owner builders because
Right.
that's they're not building with us, and
Right.
they're trying to use our subcontractors and so on too. But you're willing to help them step in and say, hey, this is what I did, this is how I did it. Obviously I own my own company now, but here's my way, here's my software of exactly how you can build your own house,
Right.
which is speaks a lot of who you are, you're willing to give. And then obviously somebody might become an owner builder or try to, and then they might just end up hiring you because they get too
Yeah. Yeah.
frustrated with
That's
it.
that's it.
So,
You know, it's one of those
which
things.
is most of the case because it's not easy, and you
Right.
found that
Right.
out too, which you've established yourself and started your own business doing it. But a lot of people get into the grind of construction and the owner builder side, and they just find out how hard it is to get subs
Mhm.
there without project management, especially in some of these smaller areas that subs or subcontractors are so busy right now anyway. The last
Mhm.
thing they're going to do is focus on an owner builder rather
Yeah.
than their bread and butter, which is a
Right.
regular
Some of
builder.
them, some of them wouldn't work with owner builders.
Yeah.
I had subs that like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to work with owner builders. So it has its challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me.
And you're given the playbook for it, and but in the end a lot of them do end up get frustrated, and they say, yeah, this is a lot more work than I thought, especially in Florida. I mean, where we're at
Right.
too, with the pilings and all that stuff we have to do, and the hurricane codes being as strict as they are. It's just
Right.
there's so much that goes into these houses that if you miss one thing, it's going to screw everything else up.
Exactly.
So
And there's a lot of financial investments as well,
yeah.
you know. So owner builders, first thing is it's hard for you to get financing. It's damn near impossible. And if you have to go and get financing, you have to put up a lot of your money as well to get into the business. So it's, you know, putting up, you know, $100,000 of your money into something you don't know is very, very challenging. And that was the risk that I took. Luckily for me, it was successful, where it takes one mistake or one error for you to miss almost all of your investment. So that's the tricky part of it.
Mhm.
You know, and there it's one of those things where you can do it yourself, you know, and here's a tool that could help you with that. But if you can't, I'm here for you. You know?
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. One thing I wanted to ask you, and I just thought of this too because it's so important, and obviously this shows more client base for people looking how to build construction and so on. So if I was a client on a street and I was looking for a spec home, what do you recommend they look for? What do you recommend they do prior to buying? Because obviously we're in a hot market right
Mhm.
now. People are just willing to buy whatever to get wherever they can get. You know, I'm seeing stuff sell for prices that it should not be selling for, and then I'm seeing cheaper spec homes, you know, that builders are doing that are selling for big bucks too.
Right.
And I'm a big advocate on quality. I'm a big advocate on just long term. You know, if you're going to buy something, it's got to be a good investment that you can make money later. So, what do you recommend somebody off the street look for?
It were in a very different time in real estate, right?
Yeah,
I've not been in the game for long, so I can't really say for like 10, 15, 20 years ago. But now it just seems like anything sells,
yeah,
right? Either I've had people call me and say, when is your house going to be ready so I can buy it? I have three customers looking for exactly what you have
it's
going on.
crazy.
So it's easy sell for me. Now it goes back to the client. Like, what exactly are you looking for? Right.
Mhm.
What I would say is some say the market is too hot. You know, let's slow down. I'm not going to buy anything. And 6 months from now, it goes up another 20,000. Another year from now, it goes up another 50,000. So one thing I'll tell is, you know, we're in a bubble. I feel like we are. At some point, it's going to really slow down.
Yeah,
It's going to dip. So depending on how much or how fast you want the house, you know, maybe slow down. And in terms of specs, what you're looking for is some of the things that I talked about that's easily marketable, like the open floor plans, high ceilings, houses that are recently built, not older houses. So those are the key fact that I look at, or that I would advise someone if they're looking to buy a new house, is just something that's easily marketable. Because if your job changed or you need to relocate, you're not gonna have difficulties selling that house.
Yeah, I agree with you on the bubble end of things too. And I kind of look at it from my own perspective is would I buy right now?
Mhm.
No, and I mean, I get people that ask me all the time, and it's in its opinion. I mean, my opinion's my opinion, but it's
Right.
how much money you have. Are you willing to spend certain money? And I had a guy I just sold a $3 million house to, but he's going to tear it down and we're going to build him something. Now you do the math on it. If he puts
Oh
up
wow.
something 4,000 square feet on that, he's going to be 5 million plus on the lot. It's got a big water view. Is he going to be able to get out of that? Probably.
Mhm.
If the market crashes, everybody's going to get burnt.
Yep.
But
Yep.
eventually, it always comes back. And that's the thing with the land here, especially in the Marco Island areas, it's unique. It's waterfront.
Mhm.
Waterfront tends to come back a lot faster than inland stuff,
Mhm.
and because water is water. I mean, it's
You're
a
right. Right. It's a
preferred
great
thing, especially
sell point. Yeah.
yeah, especially with a view. So, um, it's tough to call. I mean, I would love to sell my house I'm in right now. I redid everything, renovated it, but it's like, where am I going to go? So,
Right.
and I think a lot of people are in the same situations because
Right.
you sell something now, you're either going to downgrade or you're going to have to refix everything. It's just, it's hard to find something that's same caliber for what you paid for before. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Is this bubble going to burst eventually? Yes. How impacted is Florida going to be by it? I think certain areas will be more impacted than others. But I think a lot of the higher end waterfront stuff like that is not going to get as impacted. So a lot
Right.
of people
Right.
are willing to put their money on it and invest in it right now. And that's what you're seeing because it's just crazy what stuff's selling. I mean, we're tearing down stuff now because there's no dirt
Wow.
for sale.
Yeah.
We just ripped down another house that was a $1.3 million house. The house was in decent shape, but it had a
You
view
just want the
behind it.
land.
Yeah, he had the view. They wanted something new, so we tore it down and we're going to build them something new on it too. And
Right.
more than likely, if they went to sell the new house later on, they'd get their money out of it, especially in this market.
Right. Right.
So it's crazy.
And also different clientele as well. There are some who are willing to buy something that's very, very livable and tear it down and build something they want. And there are some that's just looking for just a house to buy,
Hmm.
So different level of clientele on that end. There are just some that just want a house.
Yeah.
Last year, I was buying land in Palm Bay, Florida for 20,000 for a 0.2 acre lot. Now those same lot is going for 70,000. This was
Wow.
last year,
Wow.
right? This is not even after 12 months. I just put an offer for one at 65,000. So it's just I mean, at some point it's going to stop
Yeah.
going up, but when?
Yeah.
Is it 2022, 2023? Because we're not seeing, it's going to flatline at some point, right? The trajectory is going to go up and then it's going to flatline before it starts dipping. But now it's still like there's this curve that's happening, so it's when that is going to eventually start dropping and how hard is it going to drop is also another thing to consider. It's just going to go like high, drop a little bit, go high, depending on the market, and no one knows the market
Yeah.
dictates itself, so
Well, the demand's still there. I mean, the construction demand's still there. People are still wanting to build, and they know it's taking a lot longer. Somebody just tagged me in a Facebook post. It was on a local group that somebody was complaining about build time in this general area, and then there's
right.
like 100 comments of people saying, "Welcome to the club." This is how it's going to be. So, there's with lack of people wanting to
Materials.
work and
Yeah.
lack of materials, there's no employment, nobody wants to work right now. I mean, we've been looking for a labor position, trying to fill that for weeks now, and I remember last time we did a position for labor was probably 3 years ago, and we filled it. We had like 45 applicants at that time, and now we have
Wow.
like none. It's crazy, and we're offering more money now too. So it's like, yeah, because we can't get anybody for the money we were paying before on it, and
Yeah.
it's not much to that position. It's a starter position to work your way up to a superintendent, but you know, it's just crazy right now. It's just so hard to find help. But you know, though it's gotta eventually, I mean, it's very cash heavy here. A lot of people are getting loans still because the interest is so low. But I think once
Right.
that interest rate starts trickling up, which we all know it's going to happen in 2022, I think that's
Mhm.
going to change a lot of real estate too,
Yeah.
because the loans and all that stuff are going to start fading out, and it's going to, if you're not cash heavy, then you're probably not going to be
That was a
buying.
big factor. The interest rate it's unreal. A lot of people refinancing. A lot of people saying, "Oh, it's time for me to buy because it's so low." Yeah, that was a huge factor in terms of the market being quote unquote a bubble.
Yeah, yeah. So should be interesting in 2022, that's for sure. So
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
exactly. Wrapping this up, man. I always do this. One of my favorite questions. I get a little more personal with you. This is a question I kind of did a little series off of separate. So, what about you personally? What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business and our own lives that can help us grow?
Um, I always say this: it's just never be afraid to, take a little bit of risk. Do your due diligence and don't be afraid to take that risk to try to move forward. I've always done that in anything that I do. That just going from an engineer and building a house myself without any formal education, investing over $100,000, after doing your due diligence, obviously, is the ability to willing to take risk is one. It sounds like a cliche, you've heard it a lot of times, but that's one of the key factor for a lot of people to go from where they are to the next level. You have to be uncomfortable. Just like right now, I'm doing single family. The most multifamily I've done is duplex, and I'm trying to elevate to the 12 unit apartment. So being able to understand that you're uncomfortable and taking that risk after your due diligence is one key factor for people to move forward in life. That's one of the things that I always do my due diligence and take the risk and see what comes out of that.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yes,
That's the
yes, get
main thing.
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That is
I mean
key.
that's because a lot of people don't like to get out of their comfort zones, and that's the thing. That's why you stay kind of where you're at and you stay at a
Yeah,
certain path. But I'm a big believer in what you said, 100%. And I've been trying to do more and more every single year of how can I put myself in a different situation where I'm not comfortable. But that's how you get ahead.
that's
That's
how
how
you
you.
grow.
I mean, that's the only way I've figured out how to
Right.
actually keep growing as a person financially in every aspect. So love that answer, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you.
Um, most people, I always ask this question. Most people ask about your past. Let's hear about your future. So, where will we see Jay in the future 15, 20 years from now? Who will you be?
Ooh, Grant Cardone.
There you go.
You know,
Great
I have
answer.
yeah, I'm trying to the real estate, we don't know tomorrow, but my trajectory is trying to acquire a lot of properties and a lot of multi-units. I'm starting with the 12 unit that I'm working on right now, and I'm gonna have multiple of those and go to into bigger apartments and also have a building business on the side that just builds single family residence. So I'm going full time with construction. In the next 5-10 years, hopefully the trajectory would be at least 200 units, and a stable building business that focuses on commercial and residential properties.
Nice. No doubt. No doubt you're gonna do it, man. So
Yeah,
it's
thank you, thank you.
keep it, yeah, you're pushing big time. I see what you're doing. I have no doubt. Especially you're already doing 6 houses too. So that's
Yeah,
impressive for
yeah,
starting out from nowhere. So I give you a lot of credit. And already moving up to the multifamily too and pushing yourself even more. So good for
yeah,
you.
sure.
Give you a lot of
Thank you,
credit.
thank you.
Last question, what the show's all about. What exactly do people need to look for in their next construction project, and why should they choose Jay as their builder of choice?
Oh wow, that's a great question. One thing I focus on is quality. A lot of the houses I built them like it's mine, which a lot of them are actually mine. So it's, I focus on quality, I focus on the market, and I've also look at the financial aspect of it. I don't want you to overbuild, which is a lot of people, tend to want to overbuild. I want more square footage, I want more this, but what I do, I give them a lot of market analysis in terms of what they're interested in, and I give them advice on what would be better, in the local area that they're trying to build into. So, I get a little bit more personal with them, trying to understand this is how you approach this from a comfort standpoint and from a marketable standpoint. You have to look at all of those things when you're trying to get into construction, or when you're trying to build a new house. There's more that goes into it than just a house you live in. The financial aspect of it, the comfort aspect of it, peace aspect of it, the marketable aspect of it. So I try to give them a lot of those things so they're fully aware, or relatively aware, of what's going on before they actually start building.
I love that, because there's not a lot of builders that are willing to take that time and do that, especially on the spec home. It's just turn and burn usually is what specs are, but you actually
Right.
care because you, like you said, you're building a house like it's your own. So that's a difference maker right there that stood out to me, is actually caring about the client, their experience, how they're going to react to what you do and how you build it,
Right.
and then also taking care of them in the long run as well. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah, the advantage is I'm small enough to have that time to dedicate to them.
Yeah.
If I'm doing 20 houses, I'm not sure if I'll be able to have that time to get personal with 20 people, explain that. So since my size, the advantage is my size. Being a small builder, I have a little bit more time to focus on the customer and say, this is how you should approach this to
Yeah.
better benefit you.
Well, see what you said there too. Like with us, we have, I think, 20 projects in line right now, but they're all at different stages, all at different times, and some of them
Mhm.
haven't even broken ground yet. But we're not even really taking on any more work or touching any
Right.
more work until
Mhm.
I get these things off the ground. I'm telling people that, so I'm losing jobs constantly right now, and it sucks. But and I cringe every day because they're probably going other avenues. But it's just, we do not want to lose that quality and that attention to detail, but also the client experience,
Right.
where
Right.
we have time to meet with them, make sure and check up on them and everything's going well. We have a meeting tomorrow with a client we usually have a monthly meeting with. We never used to do that. We would always just say 2 meeting stops, that's about it. But now
Yeah.
that these things are so custom, we don't
Mhm.
want to miss anything. And we've learned that meeting with them on a consecutive basis benefits us as the
Yeah.
builder, because we're not going to miss anything and things are going to be perfect for them when they finally
Yeah.
CO the house and close it.
Yep. And it gives them like they're part of the process as well.
Yeah.
So while you're showing them what's going on, while you're having those meetings and those conversations with them, it makes them more involved because they're up to date to what's going on,
Hmm.
as opposed to just being in oblivion. And
Yeah.
they get the news, or they get letter, and they get the news. So having them involved, makes them part of the process, and it's more comfortable for the customer.
Yeah, exactly. Jay, man, this has been great, brother. I really
Thank you.
appreciate your time
Thank you.
today,
Thank
man.
you.
It's been great conversation. I love having conversations with other builders, and this was awesome. So last thing real quick before we sign off here, where can people find and connect with you?
So right now I'm only doing Instagram, and you can, send me a DM, reach out, follow, ask me any questions. My Instagram is JAYOPUS_BLDR for builder. So you can reach out to me. Very, very open to having conversations with people on Instagram. So reach out, and fun fact, this is the first time I'm having this type of conversation with another builder. So I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
We trade, have the same ideas to talk about different things. So thank you for having me on your platform. This was really good.
Yeah, man. I was happy to have you. Like I said, you're killing it with the content. That's what stood out to me. I love the other builders that are doing that, and actually trying to help and spread their knowledge and just and make construct just make it a difference in construction, because there's just so much bad that goes on out in
Right.
construction too, especially in times like today where things are booming. There's just a lot of shisty builders out there, but
Right.
there
Yeah,
are a
that's
lot of good
true.
ones. There are a lot of
That's
good
true.
ones out there too, and that's what I'm trying to shine a light on, is more of the good ones, and have people like yourself on this show and be able to help people. That's what this is all about. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, man.
Uh,
Thank you for having me.
Great conversation.
Yeah,
So
anytime. Just reach out.
for sure, I'll tag your Instagram in here so people can find you. Obviously, everybody listening, you know the routine. Only ask for one thing, and that one thing is 5-star review on iTunes. Share it with your friends and family. So I guess I asked for more than one thing, but I don't advertise. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So I appreciate everybody that listens to this show, and I will see you guys on the next one.